Back in 1993, I came to the Outer Banks and took a hang gliding lesson. I had no idea that it was going to consume my life for the next, 15 years. But it was the greatest thing I ever did. I was fortunate to have an instructor named Lisa Alexander. And Lisa told me, she said, she could see I was enthusiastic about the whole thing. And she said, you should come back and teach with us next year. We'd love to have you. And I thought that was awesome. So I came back in 1994 and learned to be an instructor and started teaching. And my career spanned 8,000 people that I ended up teaching. When you go into Kitty Hawk Kites, there's this massive picture of John Harris, the owner of Kitty Hawk Kites, who was the first person to fly off of Grandfather Mountain. And my students would always ask if I had flown off of Grandfather Mountain, especially the ones from North Carolina. And I always had to say no. They closed it back in 1987. They don't fly there anymore. I said, but if they ever do, and I have an opportunity, I will definitely be there. So I told thousands of people, I promised thousands of people that I would do that. And it's really amazing how it all worked out. All right, let's fast forward to 2001. I got in touch with GW Meadows, a major player in the sport of hang gliding. He told me that they were planning a reunion for all the people who had flown Grandfather Mountain. They were going to fly for a couple days. Hugh Morton was going to open the site up for one more time. And all the people who had flown there were invited to fly. And they were going to open up to 10 new pilots that had the proper experience. These people would be able to fly for the first time. So with my ratings and my experience, GW sent me an application, and I filled it out, and he called me back shortly and said that I would be able to fly. There was 2 new people to fly there for the first time. It was myself and Kevin Coltrane. And so everyone else there had actually already flown at Grandfather before. So we were the only 2 newbies. So my girlfriend, now my wife, Michelle, and I traveled from Raleigh to Grandfather Mountain. And it was the first time I was actually ever there. And it was amazing. We got there and they had built a ramp, like a real hang gliding ramp, launch ramp, on the one side of the mountain. And we were just all kind of keeping our fingers crossed that it would blow in that direction. Well, turns out it didn't. And we ended up launching on the other side of the mountain. So we had to kind of make a makeshift ramp. And it was really amazing. They had three 2x4s and a couple other pieces of wood shimmed up and a couple nails, maybe. They might have just glued it together, I don't know. It was pretty flimsy. And they placed it right there on the side of a rock, and that's what we launched off of. It was only a couple feet long, so we had maybe 3 or 4 steps, and that was it. So it didn't really bother me. I've done things like that before, but it was definitely pretty exciting. There's not really a lot of room to set up your hang glider. You pretty much have to set it up on the rocks. If you don't keep your wingtip bags on the glider until the last moment before you tension it, you'll scrape up your glider pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty rough terrain. That was pretty difficult, actually. I had never really had to set up a glider in such a compromising position, but it was definitely worth it, and I would do it again. On my first launch, I was able to climb up onto the ramp. I remember Dennis Pagan was there, and he was on my wing. And the wind was blowing in pretty good. We were pretty excited that we were going to be able to soar. There was some guys already starting to get up. And so I launched off of there and take a nice left-hand turn and kind of go to where I thought there would be some lift, and got up. And I got a chance to fly back and forth a couple times. And there's a peak off to the side where some of the more experienced pilots were able to get over to and bench up and really get some high altitude. Honestly, I was a little too chicken to fly over there. That was the other way from the landing zone, and that didn't look too exciting to me because I didn't have any guarantees that I would get up, and I sure didn't want to land out front in the parking lot. Which I guess could be a backup spot if you wanted to, but that would be quite a challenge. So I don't remember how long my flight was. It was, a half hour. Definitely got above launch and got the soar, and it was awesome. I remember the landing field being, really far away, and I was flying a smaller glider, because apparently the landing field is kind of small, and so I figured I'd fly a smaller glider in case I had to, really crank it in there really tight. That wasn't the case on the first day. The second day, it was. We launched sometime in the afternoon.
Thank you, clear.
It wasn't as soarable as I thought it was. I got a chance to make a couple passes out front. And started hitting some sink. And I'm looking at the landing zone, and it was pretty far away. I wasn't positive that I was going to make it. So I remember I was talking to one of the local pilots there who had flown it, and he said, if you start to get low on the way to the landing zone, it's going to be counterintuitive, but go ahead and fly out towards this little finger into the wind, and you'll get some lift there, and then you'll be able to make it to the landing zone. I figured, well, he knew more than I did about that site, so I took it for his word, and that's what I did. And I flew out to that little finger, got enough lift, and started heading back to the landing field. As I'm coming in for a landing, there's the way the field was set up. I had to kind of fly over the trees and make a really hard left-hand turn and kind of slice it in. A lot of speed, and it turned out great. I think I had a couple steps at the end. I had to run it out a little, but it was a great landing. Well, the whole thing was really pretty exciting, but I have to say that the highlight of the whole adventure at flying at Grandfather Mountain was being able to launch and get up above launch and fly by Hugh Morton, the owner of Grandfather, and screaming from the air, "Thank you, Mr. Morton, for letting us fly there." And, everyone giggled, and that was just awesome. I could hear everybody laughing, and that was definitely the highlight of the whole thing. Obviously, flying there and being safe and not having any problems, that was an added bonus, of course, too. And I think everybody had a safe flight. It was a great time. Everybody got a chance, but yeah, that was probably the highlight, definitely. Yeah, there was some pretty famous people there. Dennis Pagan, Tom Pagini, Terry Sweeney, all these guys, hang gliding heroes. It was quite a collection of people from the past. A lot of people I've met through Kitty Hawk Kites, but yeah, it was pretty neat seeing all these people get a chance to fly again, who spent years flying there in the late '70s and early '80s. Quite an adventure. GW Meadows did a really awesome multimedia presentation there. We watched old videos, everyone got together, and there's all kinds of demonstrations, and we got to see some people that, from the hang gliding world that I had only read about or heard about, and a lot of them were actually there, and I got a chance to meet them and talk to them and trade stories back and forth. There was a lot of storytelling going back and forth. It was really exciting. Well, it was the whole thing was a dream come true. Flying Grandfather Mountain after all those years of telling people that I would if I could, yeah, absolutely, definitely a dream come true. Oh yeah, if they decide they want to open up Grandfather Mountain again, I'll be the first person there. Soarable or not, I'll just camp over until it gets soarable, and then I'll fly, definitely. Yeah. There was a lot of people involved in setting that weekend up. GW, John Harris, Hugh Morton, all the people at Grandfather, all the pilots who called other pilots and got everybody together. These guys made a huge effort for really one of the highlights of my life in terms of hang gliding, and it's really appreciated. I really appreciated it. I think the only other thing that I'd like to do to kind of put the whole thing to closure would be to contact all my students and show them the video and tell them the story and tell them that I finally did it. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Clear.